In this episode, we're going to treat security controls like real mechanisms in the world rather than comforting ideas on a slide, because controls only matter when they actually change outcomes. New learners often assume that if a control is deployed, the organization is protected, but security is full of controls that exist in name while quietly failing in practice. A password policy might be written but unenforced, logging might be enabled but never reviewed, and segmentation might be designed but bypassed by exceptions that grew over time. Measuring control effectiveness is the discipline of proving that controls are working the way you think they are, and that they are reducing risk in a way you can observe. This matters in cloud security especially, because environments change quickly and a good configuration can drift into a risky state without anyone noticing. The purpose of measurement is not to produce pretty reports or to satisfy curiosity. The purpose is to find gaps early, prioritize fixes, and keep controls aligned with real threats and real business needs. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Control effectiveness means the control is present, correctly configured, consistently used, and actually producing the intended security outcome. That definition sounds simple, but it helps beginners avoid a common trap, confusing installation with effectiveness. A firewall rule that allows broad access might technically exist, but it may not protect the system it was meant to protect. A monitoring tool might collect events, but if alerts are ignored or the logging is incomplete, detection is not effective. The most practical way to think about effectiveness is to ask two questions. Does the control reduce the chance of a bad event? And does it reduce the damage if a bad event occurs? Some controls are preventive, so you measure whether they block or reduce attacks. Some controls are detective, so you measure whether they reveal problems quickly and reliably. Some controls are corrective, so you measure whether recovery happens fast enough to reduce harm. When you frame effectiveness this way, you stop arguing about whether a control is good in theory and start proving whether it works in your environment. Measurement begins with clarity about what the control is supposed to do and what failure would look like, because you cannot measure a vague goal. If the control is access control, you need to know which identities should access which resources and under what conditions. If the control is encryption, you need to know which data must be protected and where the encryption should apply. If the control is patching, you need to know the expected patch window and which systems are in scope. Without clear expectations, measurement becomes a collection of numbers that cannot drive decisions. Beginners sometimes think security measurements are about counting everything, but the smarter approach is to define a small set of outcomes you care about and then collect evidence that those outcomes are true. In cloud environments, where resources can be created and destroyed quickly, this clarity is even more important because it prevents measurement from becoming stale the moment the environment changes. The measurement system should keep tracking the outcome even as the underlying infrastructure shifts. Assessments are one of the most common ways to measure effectiveness, and an assessment is simply a structured check that compares what exists to what should exist. Some assessments are internal, meaning your team reviews configurations, policies, and practices against defined expectations. Other assessments are external, meaning an independent party evaluates controls and provides an outside perspective. Beginners sometimes hear assessment and think it means a once-a-year event, but the healthiest security programs treat assessments as part of a rhythm, not as a rare ceremony. An assessment can be as simple as verifying that critical logs are being collected and that access reviews are happening, or as deep as evaluating whether your incident response process works under realistic conditions. The core value of assessments is that they force you to look for gaps systematically rather than relying on assumptions and anecdotes. They also create accountability, because findings require owners and timelines to resolve. When assessments are connected to real action, they become one of the most efficient ways to keep controls aligned with risk. A beginner misunderstanding is to treat assessments as paperwork that proves compliance while ignoring whether attacks would actually be stopped or detected. That mistake happens when assessments focus only on whether a control exists rather than whether it is effective. For example, A policy may require multi-factor authentication, but if exceptions are widespread or enforcement is inconsistent across services, the real protection is weaker than the policy suggests. Good assessments ask questions that reveal operational reality, such as whether privileged actions require stronger verification, whether access rights are reviewed and reduced over time, and whether monitoring alerts are investigated promptly. They also look at evidence, like configuration states, access logs, and change histories, because evidence reduces disagreement. In cloud contexts, assessments should also consider drift, meaning whether controls remain correct after frequent changes and deployments. A control that was correct at launch but quietly weakened by later changes is a common failure mode. Assessments that recheck critical controls at intervals help catch this drift before it turns into a breach. Scanning is another major measurement technique, and scanning means using automated checks to detect vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and weak exposures. Scanning is attractive because it can be repeated frequently, and it can cover large environments that humans cannot review manually. For beginners, it is important to understand that scanning measures a specific slice of control effectiveness, mainly whether known weaknesses are present and whether systems match expected security baselines. Vulnerability scanning can reveal unpatched software, risky settings, and exposed services, all of which are signals that preventive controls like patch management and hardening are not fully effective. Configuration scanning can reveal whether cloud resources are publicly accessible, whether storage permissions are overly broad, and whether encryption settings match policy. The strength of scanning is that it can produce consistent evidence and trend data over time, which is essential when environments change daily. The limitation is that scanning often finds what it knows how to look for, which means it can miss logic flaws, weak processes, and subtle abuse patterns that do not show up as simple misconfigurations. Scanning is powerful, but it is not the whole measurement story. To use scanning in a way that drives action, you need to be deliberate about scope and prioritization, because raw scan results can overwhelm teams. Beginners often imagine scanning produces a clean list of urgent fixes, but real scan outputs can contain thousands of findings, many of which are low impact or not applicable. The key is to connect scan findings to assets and risk. A vulnerability on an internet-exposed system that handles sensitive data is often far more important than the same vulnerability on an isolated test environment. A misconfiguration that allows public access to storage is often urgent because it can cause immediate exposure, while a minor configuration deviation might be less urgent. This is where tagging and classification help measurement, because they provide context for what matters most. Another practical tactic is to focus first on repeat offenders, meaning findings that persist across scans, because persistence often indicates a broken process rather than a one-time mistake. When scan results are prioritized intelligently, they become a focused work queue rather than a morale-killing flood. Another misconception beginners run into is believing that a clean scan means you are secure, which is a dangerous conclusion because scanning is not designed to prove the absence of risk. A clean scan usually means you have reduced known and detectable weaknesses in the areas scanned, which is valuable, but attackers can still exploit weak credentials, social engineering, misuse permissions, or flaws that scanners do not detect. Scanning also depends on proper coverage, meaning it must reach the right systems and have visibility into the right configurations. If critical systems are excluded from scanning because of operational fear or oversight, the scan results can be falsely comforting. Measuring control effectiveness therefore requires you to measure the measurement itself, such as coverage percentages, scan frequency, and the time between a change and the next scan. In cloud environments, rapid change means you may need more frequent checks to avoid long windows where risky settings persist undetected. A good measurement program treats scanning as a reliable sensor, but it never treats it as a guarantee. Metrics are where measurement becomes actionable, because metrics translate evidence into signals that leaders and teams can use to make decisions. A metric is a number that represents something meaningful, like the percentage of critical systems meeting a baseline, the time to patch high-risk vulnerabilities, or the number of privileged accounts with recent access reviews. Beginners often think metrics are about producing one perfect score, but security does not collapse neatly into a single number without losing nuance. The better approach is to choose a small set of metrics that reflect critical control outcomes and that can be tracked over time. Metrics should be defined carefully so they cannot be gamed easily, because teams naturally optimize for what is measured. If you measure how many vulnerabilities are closed, teams might close easy ones while ignoring hard, high-risk ones. If you measure the number of alerts handled, teams might tune alerts to reduce volume rather than improving detection. Strong metrics encourage the right behavior and make progress visible without encouraging shallow wins. One of the most useful types of security metric is time-based, because time is what determines how long a weakness can be exploited and how long an attacker can operate undetected. For example, you can measure how long it takes to remediate a critical vulnerability after it is discovered, or how long it takes to investigate and close a high-severity alert. These time metrics connect directly to risk, because shorter timelines mean smaller windows for attackers. They also expose process problems, because long remediation times often indicate unclear ownership, poor testing processes, or operational constraints. Another useful type is coverage-based, such as what percentage of systems are sending logs to a central place or what percentage of sensitive data repositories have enforced access controls. Coverage metrics reveal where your program has blind spots, which is crucial in cloud environments where resources can appear without being onboarded properly. The point is to pick metrics that indicate whether controls are consistently applied, not just whether a few flagship systems are well protected. Consistency is where effectiveness lives. Metrics that drive action must be tied to thresholds, owners, and decisions, because numbers without consequences become background noise. A key performance indicator, KPI, is a metric that matters enough to influence priorities, and it should be chosen sparingly so it remains meaningful. If everything is labeled a KPI, nothing feels important. A well-designed KPI has a clear definition, a clear data source, and a clear interpretation, so teams do not waste time arguing about what it means. It also connects to a decision, such as whether to allocate resources, adjust a process, or change a control design. For example, if the time to patch critical vulnerabilities is consistently longer than your risk tolerance, the action might be to change the patch process, improve testing automation, or isolate systems that cannot be patched quickly. If log coverage is low, the action might be to standardize onboarding steps for new services. Metrics drive action when they trigger changes, not when they produce admiration. Another part of measurement that beginners often overlook is the difference between leading indicators and lagging indicators. Lagging indicators tell you what already happened, such as the number of incidents last quarter or the total volume of blocked attacks, which can be useful but can also reflect factors outside your control. Leading indicators tell you what is likely to happen, such as whether critical controls are deployed and maintained, whether vulnerabilities are being remediated on time, and whether access reviews are completed consistently. Leading indicators are more powerful for prevention because they reveal weaknesses before they turn into incidents. In cloud security, leading indicators are especially valuable because you can correct misconfigurations quickly if you notice them early. A strong measurement program balances both types, using lagging indicators to validate whether the program is improving outcomes and leading indicators to guide daily work. Beginners sometimes assume that preventing all incidents is the goal, but the more realistic goal is to reduce likelihood and impact while improving response speed. The right indicators make that goal measurable. Assessments, scanning, and metrics also need to be connected to a feedback loop that improves control design, not just control execution. If a control repeatedly fails a certain way, the answer may not be to try harder, but to redesign the control so it is easier to operate correctly. For example, if access reviews are consistently late because they are manual and confusing, the fix may be to simplify roles, automate parts of the review, or reduce the number of accounts with privileged access. If scanning repeatedly finds the same misconfiguration pattern, the fix may be to adjust baseline templates, improve change approvals, or add guardrails that prevent the risky configuration from being deployed. This is where measurement becomes engineering, because you are using evidence to refine the system. A beginner mistake is to treat measurement as policing, which creates resentment and hides problems. A healthier mindset is to treat measurement as navigation, giving you a map of where the program is drifting so you can correct course. When measurement is used to improve design, It becomes a supportive tool that reduces repeated failures. It is also important to design measurement, so it respects reality and avoids the trap of measuring what is easiest rather than what is important. Some controls produce clean, easy-to-count data, while others are harder to measure but more critical. For example, it is easy to count how many systems are scanned, but harder to measure whether people are using secure workflows instead of bypassing them. It is easy to measure whether logging is enabled, but harder to measure whether alerts are meaningful and responded to consistently. If you measure only what is easy, you may get a false sense of progress while real risk remains unchanged. This is why mature measurement includes a mix of automated signals and periodic human validation, such as targeted assessments, sampling, and review of real incidents and near misses. In cloud environments, where automation is abundant, it is tempting to rely solely on dashboards, but dashboards can hide subtle operational failures. A balanced approach keeps measurement honest and keeps teams focused on risk reduction rather than metric performance. The purpose is insight, not applause. Finally, measuring control effectiveness is also about communicating risk in a way that drives priorities across teams, because security controls are maintained by people with different responsibilities. Developers, operations teams, and business stakeholders need a shared view of what is improving and what is not. Good measurement translates technical findings into practical impact, such as showing how quickly critical weaknesses are fixed, how well sensitive data is protected, and how reliable detection is across key systems. It also highlights trade-offs, such as where a legacy system cannot meet modern standards and therefore requires compensating controls or accelerated replacement. This communication prevents security from becoming a collection of isolated tasks and turns it into a coordinated program with clear direction. When measurements are credible and tied to action, they build trust, because teams see that data is being used to solve problems rather than to assign blame. That trust matters because security requires collaboration, and collaboration depends on confidence that the measurement system is fair and meaningful. As we wrap up, the core idea is that you cannot manage security controls effectively if you cannot tell whether they are working, and you cannot tell whether they are working if you rely on assumptions. Assessments give you structured human review and evidence-based verification of control reality, catching drift and process gaps that tools may miss. Scanning gives you repeatable automated visibility into vulnerabilities and misconfigurations, helping you find and prioritize weaknesses at scale, especially in fast-changing cloud environments. Metrics turn findings into signals that drive decisions, but only when they are carefully defined, context-aware, and tied to ownership and action. The best programs balance leading and lagging indicators, measure coverage as well as speed, and use results to improve control design rather than merely to criticize control failures. When measurement is done this way, it becomes a stabilizing force, keeping controls aligned with real risk as systems evolve. That is the SecurityX mindset. Treat security as an engineering discipline where claims must be proven, gaps must be discovered early, and progress must be guided by evidence that leads directly to action.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.